This is Wildcat Country.
Larson tipped it. Love has it. Lewis slams it, and Arizona wins it.
The inside scoop on the Arizona Wildcats.
It's Gunnar Maldonado. He's got blockers. Touchdown, Arizona.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to bear down.
Welcome to another edition of Wildcat Country presented by Harrah's Auction Casino. Eric Cohen and Shane Dale, and it's 3-0 Arizona. Who would have guessed that a month ago? Shane,
No.
I'm speechless at this point.
Nope. Well, I mean, I think we could have guessed 2-0, but 3-0 seemed very unlikely. It seemed more likely heading into the week, and then, of course, after the first half. But, you know, were you as surprised as I was, Eric, to learn that this is the first time in 10 years Arizona's been 3-0?
Yeah, I would not have guessed that. And you know, without thinking, I mean, you think back, obviously 2023, but Arizona lost to Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And so that they were I think 2-1. And then, you know, they lost to Washington and USC and then didn't lose again the rest of the year. Outside of that, I would not have guessed that. 2016 we know is bad. That was the ASU year with where they blew out ASU as a 2-9 team. Yeah. One of the Khalil Tate. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
But it's crazy when you think that Arizona. It was a very brief time that they had this accolade, but they did for a very short time have the longest winning streak in the country. But it's been a decade, a year since they've been 3-0. It was a decade, so just a year removed from their Pac-12 South championship season. But yeah, that tells you how inconsistent the program has been. Again, it tells you that Arizona started off the schedule, at least their first two games, with pretty easy opponents. But still, I don't think many of us had them being 3-0 at this point. I didn't. And, you know, the thing with college football is expectations. Your season expectations change every single week. And the expectations have definitely changed for Arizona, at least for me, and I think for most fans. And I think the team is embracing it at this point. I think they definitely should be.
And I want to point this out. You know, the 3-0 start is fun, but when you look at future years, I'm just looking at the first, you know, 3 games for Arizona, not necessarily next year. Maybe there's a week 0 game. NAU, Northern Illinois at Washington State, you know, that third one. 2027 at Colorado State, NAU, Washington State. I mean, who knows? And then 2028, Colorado State, Prairie View A&M. That's kind of a random one. And then at Nebraska. So enjoy the 3-0. Because who knows how long it might be until we see it again. Could be next year, could be another time. But Shane, it's exciting. It's also awesome. So you pull up the CBS Sports app, and those of you who use that as your primary scores app, you click on the Arizona Kansas State game. There's an expert picks feed, and I have a chance to obviously put in picks. There were 5 picks on the Arizona Kansas State game. There was only one who picked Arizona.
And that's how we know it wasn't me.
Well. Listen, we know our team, and you know, to your point, Shane, I mean, this was a team when Arizona got up, you know, at halftime, a dominant lead, and then at the start of the second half, they gave up 2 touchdowns in 5 minutes. Yeah. I knew what you were thinking. You knew what I was thinking, and most of you out there were thinking the same thing. Same old Arizona, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was also kind of thinking, you know, K-State's going to break through eventually, and that's why I picked against Arizona. I picked Arizona against Arizona as it relates to the spread each of the first 3 games. I've been wrong all 3 times. Happy about it. We'll have to see about next week. We'll have to see but I'm sure Iowa State's going to be favored, but we'll have to see how much. But we'll get into this a little bit more in just a minute. But I am impressed that this team took its first punch in the mouth. Yeah. In the first few minutes of week 3, where the game completely got turned around and they stood their ground. And I think that's a, you know, you want to talk about cliches, a character builder or whatever. I think that it's important to, you know, find ways to win while you're still learning how to win, for lack of a better term. And they did it. And you know, Kansas State's going completely the opposite direction of Arizona, but it was still a quality win. And it's unfortunate now at this point it doesn't count as a Big 12 win, but they'll have opportunities for that soon.
Let's get into Buy or Sell, presented by our friends at Ice Shaker. We had our friend Chris Gronkowski, the founder of Ice Shaker, on the program last week. They have a new product, Shane, that came out last Saturday, I believe he told us. And, just check that out. Iceshaker.com. Anything you want to add to
Yeah,
that?
no, 40-ounce ice shaker. In fact, I just learned that Chris is going to be kind enough to send some our way. We'll show them off on the podcast. But yeah, last week was the Gronk Bowl because you had Chris Gronkowski and Glenn Gronkowski who played for K-State. So Chris has bragging rights after Glenn had him for the last year. So, and of course, Chris picked Arizona. You picked
He did.
Arizona. Our guest from Kansas State podcast picked Arizona. I'm the only one who didn't. But you said I saved the podcast somehow. I'm not sure
You
how
did.
Did I?
Because if you had picked Arizona, they wouldn't have won.
That's
As
I
we
had to.
saw, when you always go, you want to go against. You don't want to have the clean slate, like when you see it on College Game Day when all
Yeah.
of them pick the same team.
Yeah.
You got if we had all picked Arizona, Kansas State wins that game.
So I should keep picking against them. You
Yeah,
think?
I don't think anybody would be upset with that. All right, one thing that you did do, Shane, in the preseason was not pick Arizona to go to a bowl game.
Yep.
However, at 3-0, it's not a matter of if, but which bowl the Wildcats will be in come December. Buy or sell?
I will buy Eric that they had better get to a bowl game at this point. We talk about changing expectations every week. You're 3-0, you're halfway there. They should absolutely find a way to go at least 3-6 in conference. Because remember, the K-State game didn't count as a Big 12 game. They should go at least 3-6 in a Big 12 that has a lot of parity, but not. I mean, it's not the SEC. It's not the Big 10. It's not even what the Pac-12 was in its final year by any stretch. There's no obvious best team yet. And some of the best teams, they don't play. Look, I'll kind of summarize where I'm at with this team. The short version is that they're better than I expected. I'll play kind of glass half full and half empty as far as where I think they are. Starting with half empty, of course. They haven't played away from home yet. Their opponents have been a bad FBS team, a bad FCS team, and a team that's already shaping up to be one of the biggest disappointments in college football this season because, of course, I picked them, Kansas State, to win the Big 12. Glass half full, Arizona whipped the two teams they were supposed to beat, and then they did not look their best in 2 of 3 phases, offense and special teams, against Kansas State, and they still won. So that might not sound like glass half full, but I think it's a big. It is. It's a big one because this team, they're winning while there's still room for improvement, while they're learning. I think most of their issues are fixable, which isn't always the case. Sometimes the talent's just not there. I don't think it's necessarily the case on this team from what we've seen. And you have to give the defense a ton of credit. They allowed one big play against Kansas State, one, which a lot of fans have noted there probably should have been a holding penalty on. Mm-hmm. And that's it. So I'm encouraged. I think in a lot of ways, we've just scratched the surface of how good this team could be, especially on offense. My preseason prediction of 5 wins looks like it could be a big as the Bushes and misunderestimation or something like that. At this point, 6 to 7 wins seems probable, and maybe even more of the stars align. I don't want to go crazy again for the glass half empty reasons I mentioned. You got to get healthy and stay healthy. But I think that the ceiling is certainly a lot higher than it was, and a bowl game, I think at minimum, should be the expectation now, yes.
So in 2022, Arizona played 4 ranked teams on their schedule. 2023, they played 6. Remember the winning streak that Arizona had. 2024, they played 4. Do you know how many as of today, Shane, how many top 25 teams are left on Arizona's schedule?
It would just be Iowa State at this point, I think.
That is correct.
Yeah.
1, Iowa State. Arizona misses Utah and Texas Tech, who, by the way, we'll make a pick on in the last segment.
Yeah.
Arizona got a really good schedule here. Now, I'm not saying that Baylor won't be ranked when Arizona plays them or Arizona State. However, as of right now, Arizona's schedule is favorable to the point where you can make an argument that Arizona could win up to 8 games. If not, 8 games I think is fair.
I think that's fair, but I think it's also true that, we're going to, like we always do, we're going to look back in a month to like what we're saying right now and think, well, because we thought, a month ago, we thought Kansas State was going to be not an unwinnable game, but very, very difficult. And by the time the game rolled around, a lot of fans, not myself, but a lot of fans were thinking, well, this is a game Arizona should win. And a month later, we could say, hey, BYU is really, really good, or Baylor's really good, and I still think ASU is very good. We'll get to that later. So I don't want to fall in that trap of thinking, oh yeah, that looks really winnable because it changes from week to week and it changes from sometimes from injury to injury as well. But yeah, it's the Big 12 is definitely more wide open. Like ASU would not have won the Pac-12 last year. They were very good, but the Big 12 it is the ultimate who knows kind of conference, and that's kind of fun. And right now we have another week and a half to dream and until the kickoff at Ames.
I believe that the new bar for Arizona is 7 wins this season.
That's reasonable.
I think
Four and
seven
five in the
wins.
Big 12.
Yeah, I think that at the minimum is what we should expect.
I'll still
Uh,
say six at the minimum. I'm going to raise it by one, but I had 3 and 6 in Big 12 play at the minimum. But I think anything less than that, you can't go 2-7 or worse in the Big 12 at this point. I mean, you couldn't anyway, but especially not at this point, and expect to feel anywhere close to good about it. But I don't think that, health permitting, I don't think that's going to happen.
we'll ask our buddy Barrett Baker in segment number 2 just kind of what his thoughts are, especially with Iowa State next week.
Yeah.
Does Arizona have a chance to win? Obviously, we'll preview that game on next week's episode of Wildcat Country. However, we'll talk to Barrett here, our guy, back on the show to break it all down this week. All right, number 2, Shane, buy or sell. Which is more? It's not necessarily buy or sell, but which is more true? Arizona's defense is for real, or Avery Johnson and Kansas State are a huge disappointment?
The ultimate glass half full, half empty
Yes.
question.
Yes.
But it's a fair question and it's a tough one. But I think it's more Arizona's defense is for real. Again, they've essentially allowed 10 points in that game. And I'm not going to put that second touchdown on them after the botched punt. Okay. And I think they showed a lot of mental toughness in that game on two separate occasions. Like I said, they got punched in the mouth big time at the beginning of the second half. You work for 2 hours to get a 2 touchdown lead, and it's gone in a flash. Then, your offense is driving again. The trick play doesn't work. Your offense turns it over, and you have to go out there with all the momentum behind Kansas State. It's a tie game. They have the ball coming off for turnover, and they held firm. The defense held firm. And then at the end of the game, Arizona looks like it has the game-winning stop on fourth down. But then you have the missed field goal, and all of a sudden the defense has to do it all over again. And while Avery Johnson's decision making on that next series was awful, I mean, there were two plays in particular where he had guys like over the middle for an easy 10-yard gain, and he went, he threw it into triple coverage instead. So he was bad, but the defense still held. They didn't even let K-State get into plus territory. So again, I think that shows a lot of mental toughness, along with, as Barrett called it, that return to violence. And Danny Gonzalez and the defense deserve a ton of credit because the defense won that game.
I hate to say this, and everything you said is right. I think Kansas State is an absolute fraud. And I think Arizona's defense has been great, but I think Kansas State is more of a fraud. Avery Johnson is a shell of the hype that he was given years ago. And I hate to go full Shane Dale here, but
Someone's got to.
This is an Avery Johnson problem. I need to see more from Arizona's defense. They've been great thus far. Hawaii, Weber State, but
I think it's certainly fair to think that to not be convinced they're an elite unit yet, based on who they've faced. But I mean, just some of the open field tackles they've made, the secondary is held firm, the pressure they're getting on the quarterback. I mean, and again, I think they're still scratching the surface. It's a very new group of guys. They were 3 games into the season, and they've had injury problems. They were missing some key guys again against Kansas State. So, it's foolish to think that you're ever going to be fully healthy throughout a football season. But you get a bye week to recover and maybe get a couple more guys back. And I'm excited to see what they could do at Iowa State. Even if they don't win that game, which we'll get more into next week, I will be encouraged if the defense shows up and plays close to the level that it played against Kansas State, because I think if they do, they'll give Arizona a chance to win.
Number 3, Shane Rhino at tackle is unplayable on the offensive line until proven otherwise.
I'll reluctantly sell, despite the holding penalties. I think it's seven holding penalties just in the red zone this season, and that almost cost them the game against Kansas State, and eventually it will if they keep it up. I just don't like Tristan. We'll get Barrett Baker's opinion on this because he has a lot of great insight into every single player in an Arizona uniform. It's ridiculous. But Tristan Bounds, he's also played right tackle and started played, I think, throughout the Hawaii game because Rhino wasn't healthy for that one. I don't know if he's looked that much better. He committed at least one holding penalty against Hawaii. Excuse me, which Brent Brennan noted that Rhino was on a pitch count, so to speak, and he's still working his way back from injury. So, yeah, the holding penalties have got to stop. I don't think it's not just him, and I would like to see more before we give up on him completely because I'm not sure if the alternative is going to be much better.
Right now, he's not playable, Shane. It's
Biggest
not good.
liability on the offensive line by far. I'm not
Oh
going to
my,
dispute
I
that.
mean, if Arizona had lost that game, we would have been having another discussion. So,
Yep.
he's a talented guy coming back off a serious knee injury, but right now, I do not play him until he can refuse to stop holding. I mean, and you can tell me there's holding on every play, and I understand that, but this is another level of ineptitude that was not good.
Yeah.
Speaking of ineptitude, Shane, we praised Michael Salgado Medina and Arizona special teams the other week, and he was not good at all against Kansas State. The dropping the punt, which allowed them to get, some, in good field position and get some points, as well as, the missed field goals. Buy or sell, Arizona needs to do something to relieve him of both duties, at least one of the two duties on special teams.
Yeah, we talked about this before the season, like you mentioned, and I didn't think it was a big deal. I didn't think at the time it was a big deal. He has both duties, but I guess he's just one of two players among all FBS teams who does both the place kicking and the punting. Um, on the surface, it doesn't seem too taxing to have to do both, but maybe from a mental perspective, it is. I think that of all the positions you play as a football player, like kicker is the most psychological. The one where it's played more between your ears than anything else. So maybe that botched snap on that punt was weighing on his mind during that last field goal attempt, and kicking is already such a mental game. So I'll concede that it might be time to make a change. I'll say I still believe in him as a place kicker for now. I'm certainly not going to count that 62-yard miss against them.
No, you can't do it.
I think that one had the distance. It was just a little off, but I
It
mean,
was off. Yeah, you can't. You can't fault him
not
for
that
that
one.
one. No,
But he did
no.
miss, and the other two he missed, they're beyond 40 yards, not automatic for most college kickers. We've been a little spoiled with Tyler Loop the last few years. He's made 7 of 10 attempts overall still, including a 52-yarder in the first game. Only 4 kickers in FBS have made more field goals than he has this season. So I certainly wouldn't give up on him in that role. But I do question now more than before the season started that maybe there's a reason why guys typically don't do both.
Yeah, I think something has to be done to relieve him of one of those. I mean, Ian Wagner, my favorite player on the team, guy kicks it. I think every kickoff that I've seen has been a
Yeah.
touchback.
What a
That he
luxury
is
that
that
is.
he's unbelievable. Let the guy kick some field goals. I mean, is he?
Well,
Let's see what he can do.
I had a discussion with at work about that today too, but it's like, it's not just about kicking it long. You got to be accurate and you got to be clutch. And yeah, we'll see.
So the last one, and by the way, we'll talk about it with Barrett Baker, but how about Ismail Mahdi? I mean, what a phenomenal game that he had for Arizona. He almost single-handedly won the game for him on offense. He was great. Noah's scrambling was cool. It was good to see. It was similar to what Braylon Braxton did in Seth Daigie's Marshall offense last year. But Mahdi was fantastic. So we have to give him some due. We haven't brought him up yet.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about that more with Barrett. This is kind of a weird one. So UCLA loses to New Mexico, fires Deshaun Foster. Shocker. There are a lot of rumors out there, who are the Bruins going to hire? It's not a job that has a big money thing. Brent Brennan is a UCLA alum. So let's say Arizona goes 8-4 this year, and Brent Brennan were to get the UCLA job. I don't think he turns it down. I mean, and I wouldn't blame him for taking that. Okay, fine. So Arizona has 2 guys on staff, and I'm just playing this all hypothetical here. Arizona has 2 guys on staff in Seth Dagie, who will be a future head coach, and Danny Gonzalez, who's been a past head coach that would fit the bill to take over the program. Who would you want of those 2 to take over if that hypothetical came to life?
First of all, I'm still naive because I didn't think Jed Fisher was going to leave either, but I'm not so sure that Brent would just leave if he was.
No, I think it would be if they offered him the job. I mean, there's still going to be guys that are, will go after that job. But
He's
I
got
think
but he's got a lot of ties to Arizona as well. So I don't know. But if the question, we'll leave that alone for now. And the question is like, who would you want? I mean, I think the obvious answer would be Daggy. I know
yeah.
Gonzalez has the coaching experience, but I think from what we've seen, I think he's more suited for the defensive coordinator role. That's his bread and butter. Daggy, I think, is going to be a head coach at some point, and maybe the way things are going, it could be as soon as next year somewhere. That is entirely within the realm of possibility. So if it were to come to that, then yeah, I think I don't think that's going to be an issue for one reason or another. But if it were to come to that, like if you needed someone to replace Brennan, I think Daggy would be my first pick as far as
Okay.
continuity, and because I think he's a rising star.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you, Shane. I think Daigie's the guy that, long term could be who we want here at Arizona. I mean, Brent, listen, for those of you or those of us who were cynical on Brennan, he's 3-0. I mean, did what he needed to do.
Imagine
As
3 weeks ago we were taking talk about this. I mean, again, that
It's
tells you how quickly things change in every
it's
single week.
college football is things can change in the blink of an eye, and we've seen that. So, hey, listen, love to see it. Shane, before we move on to Barrett Baker, give us some Shane standouts. What do you have for us this week in other sports?
Well, and you know what? I'm actually going to stick with football this week because I want to mention a
Oh,
couple
okay.
guys that we haven't mentioned. You mentioned Ismail Mahdi was the star on offense for Arizona. We haven't talked much about that quarterback named Noah Fafita. I think if you just look at his numbers, I think he looked pretty average. I thought he played a very smart game and a very good game against Kansas State. Again, I think when he misses on throws, he typically misses in a way where the only guy's got to have a chance to catch the ball is his own guy. I think he made some again like in the Hawaii game, he made some great throws that should have been caught. Some of his throws downfield have been outstanding. And he showed a lot of toughness on both of his touchdown runs. I like that he's running the ball and that, I mean, he's not taking too many hits, but I like that that's another element of his game and he's not afraid to do it. So I came away very impressed with Noah, even though Mahdi and the defense were the big story and Fafita's numbers didn't look very impressive. I thought he played a very good game. And then on defense, I just want to give a shout out to Gavin Hunter. He had a pair of tackles for loss, including a pair of outstanding open field tackles to prevent a first down. Arizona's done a great job avoiding missed tackles so far this season, and then Gavin, who's a sophomore defensive back, hopefully Arizona can keep him around for a while. Is a big part of that against K-State. So just some I don't know. See, no, Fafita's not an unsung hero, but I just wanted to mention a couple other guys who I thought deserved a shout out from that game because that there were. I mean, you could mention so many guys on defense, but I wanted to shout out Gavin in particular.
I want to give a bonus Shane standouts to our Ken Coit, who donated $5 million to the University of Arizona. He's getting a gate named after him
Yeah.
at Arizona Stadium, and he's also sponsoring the athletic director's title, which I'm not sure I understand for the amount of money that he's donating. But okay, the that one. Do you have any? I mean, I appreciate the donation. It's going to help, but the kind of all things you're going to donate to.
I'm
This
not
job
100%.
title?
Yeah, well, I think it like Desiree Reed-Francois is the first actual like director of athletics for Arizona, like in title, because previously had been vice president of athletics. So how that changes her role, I wasn't really clear even based on the media release, but very generous donation,
Yeah.
and it's good to see. And hey, LeBron's kid plays here soon, so maybe he'll kick in a little
But
bit
by
too.
the way, I did see the team on Friday afternoon. They were signing. My buddy, one of them who I went with, wanted to get a picture with Anthony Del Orso and
Oh,
Mo Krivas, who were sitting next to each other. So he did.
nice.
Guys were cool enough to do that, but it was cool to see. It's funny when you look at the basketball team at now and you haven't seen them play, you don't recognize. You're like, all right, well, I know that's Jaden Bradley and okay, that's Koa Pete, but like I didn't know Braden Burry. Like in 2 months, we're gonna be able to pick these out. It's just every year. It's funny that you just don't recognize. I will just say they look very skinny. Like Mo Krivas needs to put on some weight.
Yeah.
He looks a little skinny, but just want to point that out. As always, Wildcat Country is brought to you by Harrah's Auction Casino. We are so grateful. And where can you get $15 in free slot play today? At Harrah's Auction Casino. Want more? at Harrah's Auction Casino. Just sign up for Caesars Rewards and $15 is yours. Plus, earn up to $100 in additional free slot play. Caesars Rewards is the nation's #1 players card, and Harrah's Auction is the only local casino that has it. Use your $15 in free slot play to earn perks at more than 50 destinations from coast to coast. That free slot play could earn you dinner in Vegas, hotel stays in New Orleans, and more. What are you waiting for? Sign up today. Take a spin with your $15 in free slot play and earn up to $100 more. Harrah's Auction Casino is your home for free slot play and more. Play for all. Coming up next, Barrett Baker here on Wildcat Country.
When you're on the golf course and it's 100 degrees outside, you know what's great? The ice shaker, which keeps your water cold.
You heard the man. Get your custom Arizona Wildcats ice shaker now at iceshaker.com.
Shane, it's a 3-0 start, and we bring on our guy, Barrett Baker, to talk Arizona football. He is from the Tucson Fire Department. He is a real-life hero and a former letter winner at the University of Arizona. All right, Barrett, you come on with us all the time. Some of the time is good, some of the time is not so good, but as we were talking to you before the show, this feels really good that this team, which we didn't know what we were going to get, is now 3-0.
Just a big smile on my face because you got 12 chances to do something special, and there's a lot that can go wrong in a short period of time. And so to start off and do what we're supposed to do, and candidly, the Kansas State, I don't know if people thought we were supposed to do that, but to do it and do it in the way that we've done, including the Kansas State game, which we did actually face some adversity and still battle through that and come out with a win. That's all that you can do at this point. And there isn't any game now after a couple weeks into this season where I can look at our team and say, we shouldn't even show up at that particular game. I think that we can match anybody that we go with. And I think that we're going to get a little bit better, believe it or not, when we get a few more players back.
Yeah, Barrett, I mentioned this in the first segment. I feel like Arizona didn't play its best against Kansas State, and they still found a way to win. And I take a lot of encouragement from that, though this team hasn't scratched the surface of how good it could be. I'm not saying they're Big 12 contenders, but certainly better than I thought and most fans thought they would be. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think this team still has a lot of room for improvement overall before we get into specific positions?
Absolutely. And we got to keep this in mind. We still have 3 coordinators that just finished their 3rd game for the 2025 season. So Seth Dagey, you have to like the things that we've seen early in the season when it comes to running the ball effectively. And then when we get some of the passing, second game, obviously that was clicking. The first and third, there's a few things we got to work out. Coach Gonzalez, we'll just gloss over that for now and come back to that. But our special teams, obviously there is plenty of room for improvement there. We just can't have the negative plays, and we need more of the big plays. And so I think if you look at all 3 phases of the game, room for improvement, and then we know this to be true. We had 60 players that were new to our roster this year. And so, we might have been a little bit here and here, but when those wins keep coming, man, it gets here. And then all of a sudden you got something special going on with the chemistry and the belief that you're going to be singing Bear Down in the locker room after 60 minutes.
All right, let's get into the defense, Barrett. Before the season started, you talked about you wanted to see a return to violence. And I said that sounds like a great hashtag. I still think it is. I think we've seen it. Great open field tacklings, like guys finishing their tackles. You're not seeing a lot of missed assignments. What has impressed you most? Maybe a couple things or a couple players that have impressed you most on the defensive side of the ball.
So this shouldn't be surprising, and we talked about this before the season, right? Danny Gonzalez, as a defensive coordinator, has been successful everywhere he's gone. And we said, if the past is indicative of the future, then we absolutely could have a very good defense. What I would say is that we were playing very, very good at all 3 levels of the defense. The defensive line has stocked up and brought back some players, and we hit on some guys that we brought in from the junior college or transfers from FCS or whatever that may be. And so, Bailey has been an impact player when it comes to tackles for loss. Tia Savea is holding down the middle with some real size. Palu as a JC kid. We still haven't even seen our New Zealand, 390-pound Zach Siulepa. So maybe there's something that can still happen there. Jonas Savagne's brother, has really taken a leap. So that front on the defense has been a real blessing. When Trey Smith comes back again, that's another one. So then you go to the linebackers. Tay Brown has continued to get better. It's his third year as a starter now. But Max Harris, how about Geiska Crowley? And we'll talk about him and some of the transfers that they identified and brought into the program, because Harris is flying around doing fantastic things. So that linebacker position with Kennedy and Riley Wilson, we got 4 or 5 guys, they're just doing good things. And then the back end, we can talk about the safeties with Genesis and Dalton and Trey and Gavin Hunter, who's been phenomenal. But how about the cornerbacks that we knew nothing about? Have we even talked about Killebrew? No, because we're talking about our Cole from Texas and Garnes and our San Jose State transfers. So all 3 levels of the defense are clicking right now. And then the man behind the curtain is Coach Gonzalez, and what he's doing with schematically and causing confusion. It is just awesome to see. And, Big 12 defensive coordinator of the week. And he could probably do that every week if we stay healthy and keep flying to the ball.
Yeah, and I think one part of that, Barrett, is the effort level that I've seen from this team, especially on defense, that wasn't there last year. Do you feel the same way?
To a point. And I think last year, you look at the defensive front. We bring in, Tia Savea transfers to Texas. We lose Bill Norton as a transfer. Our defensive tackles were Chuba, who got hurt early in the season. We had Stanley T from USC and Darton from Syracuse. Juxtapose that with what we were able to do with our front on this particular defense and some of the hits. When you're not sound up front, you're not protecting the linebackers from that second level. They're getting reached. And it just is a snowball effect on how to not play defense. So I think I'm not going to say the I word but we've stayed clean so far on the injury front, minus some nicks. And there is a mentality, and you saw that again with some of the preseason drills and things that they're doing with how do they shed blocks and pop up and attack a ball and scoop and score and all of those things. So a little bit of both. I think the numbers last year just snowballed, and we were playing guys that shouldn't have been playing. This year, we've got about 22 to 27 guys that are playing, and when they get their shot, again, Gavin Hunter. Okay, we're all talking about Traden Stukes because we know what Traden was. Gavin Hunter, the film that he's put down this year and the sure tackling that he's doing from that cat position, it's an awesome thing, and he's an awesome young man as well. Very respectful, hard worker, and that's what it takes, is to get someone that no one knew who 23 was before the season started, and yet do we know who 23 is now? Because he is showing up consistently.
Yeah, it's a good point. That's a great point. So Shane and I kind of put the jinx on this next guy a few weeks ago. I apologize, Michael Salgado Medina. We thought everything was great with the special teams. Shane, I questioned it, and then we said, okay, everything looks good. Barrett, he had a rough one on punting, dropping the snap and then the missed field goals. What do you do in that situation as a former guy who played on special teams? How do you handle that? Is it time to replace him in one of the areas? Is it just a confidence thing? What would you do?
Well, I mean, competition, right? You have to have competition for each position. And so there's no doubt that if you're not producing, then they're going to open that up. So the botched on the punt itself, I mean, he's probably done that 1,000 times. That's just something that's a fluke, but everything has to be in place. It's snap, hold, punt. If you don't field that the long snap cleanly, then nothing's going to work. So that was kind of a fluke to me and something that he can clean up. But the field goal kicking, the place kicking, look, if you're inside of 40, if you're inside of 45 with the legs that these guys have nowadays, you're just hoping to have an 80%, 70+% percentage, I would assume. I think we were spoiled, obviously, with Tyler Loop. And I know that Coach Navar is working hard behind the scenes to make sure that whatever has happened in those first 3 games gets corrected. Because, again, you talk about your stress level. If we make the field goal with 2 minutes to go, you are walking out of that stadium with a huge smile on your face. When he misses that last field goal and it's a 6-point game, you are one fluky play away from losing a game that you dominated in every single capacity of that game. So when you've got an opponent down, you got to go for the jugular and put them out of their misery. And we did not do that in that particular game, and that makes you nervous. So got to fix it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's important to note, though, that Salgado Medina is still 7 for 10 overall for the season, and he was
Yep.
off to a. So I give him the benefit of the doubt for now. Let's talk about a guy we haven't talked about yet, Barrett, Noah Fafita. I know we had you on after the Hawaii game, and you were a little critical of his performance. Just give us your overall thoughts of him through 3 games.
I mean, I just think that he's not hurting the team. And first and foremost, that is very, very important, right? He's not making critical mistakes. He's not fumbling the ball, and he's been opened up for running the ball a few times. Takes good care of the ball. The first game, again, I think even the coaches talked about a little apprehensive, not necessarily trusting his reads and going with it. Week 2, a step down in competition with Weber State, and man, he All-American. This week was a little bit tougher, but Kansas State's that's not a slouch of a program. They always play good defense. And I think when you look at the game on the whole, he had a couple drops. Drops hurt. They hurt momentum. They put you behind the chains. So he's got to get a pass for that. And then the second thing is just the situations of the game. In the second quarter, at the end of the half, where time is working against us. So we're having to throw. When the other defense knows what you're going to do and there's no threat of balance, they can do a lot of things with their coverage, and they can do a lot of things with rushing. So they made it tough on the last series. They muffed the punt. We get the ball right back. We got to put points on the board there. We need 2 first downs to give ourselves a better chance at field position. It didn't work again. We missed the 61-yarder. But when we come back in the third quarter, and it was a catastrophic start, we go 3 and out, we muff the punt. But after that, we got back to balance. We got back to Mahdi in the running game. Yeah. And when you give an offense balance, and it doesn't have to be, right? Sometimes we balance is overrated. If you're throwing the ball at will, keep throwing the ball. But you need to have that run. And Mahdi and the rest of the offensive line, again, Pac-12 offensive line of the week. Then
Big 12.
Or Big 12, I'm sorry.
I know.
Whoopsies.
You know what? I keep going every so often when I go to ESPN's app, I'll go to look for the Pac-12 standings first before the. So
yep. And that helps your offensive line. It helps Noah. It just helps so many things when you can do that with the run game, because now their front 7 has to donate extra effort to stopping the run, and now they're taking 4 guys in the back end to try to cover your 4. So, and we really do need to talk about Coach Oglesby if we've got time to do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My next question was going to be about the offensive line, because we had a text exchange last week after the Weber State game, and you did a great job just breaking down each starting offensive lineman. Would you could talk about Coach Oglesby for sure if you'd like, but would you provide maybe a Cliff Notes version of how you thought each starting O lineman did in the Kansas State game?
Yeah, I mean, Buchanan had 1 penalty, but that's his 3rd game in a row, and this guy's played a lot of football, and he is holding down that left tackle position and doing a fantastic job. Little bit of a surprise. Okay, we had a different left guard there, Chuba. Again, transferring from the defensive line, they see something with his body type and what he can do. He moves to offensive guard. And as Coach Brennan said, the plan was to alternate series between he and Wooten, and Chuba was hot. And they went with him in the second half. And so we'll get back to that. Kaena DeCambra, what a find. Okay, this kid has transferred from Hawaii. Did he ever play center? The answer to that is no. So you've got a kid that has never played center, and for 3 games, the job that he's done in anchoring that position and helping Noah with protections, it's amazing. Deuced, I don't know how he's grading out with PFF, but again, the physical presence that he brings, and he's really just been a 2-year starter now. It's not as if he's a veteran and a 5th-year senior here. So, I mean, his best football is ahead. Now, right tackle obviously has been the one position that we've got Tristan Bounds. He comes in from Michigan. He's 6'8", 295 pounds. A little bit of a rough start there and some pass protection. In the first game, fantastic against the run. They bring Rhino in because you have to have a 6th player anyway. And, the last 2 games have not been obviously very good for Rhino. 3 holding penalties last game, 2 before that, I think. So he's 5 or 6 holding penalties. But Tristan Bounds has done well. And so I think it's just a matter of we want to get a little depth at the tackle position. But at the end of the day, if Tristan is the one that has shown to be more consistent, then we'll just see how that goes. But I think this is what I would say. You've got 5 offensive linemen, and we ran 79 plays. That's 395 opportunities for a penalty, and we had 7. We had 7. One player committed 3 of them. So for the other whatever huge percentage, we are playing clean football. So when I hear people screaming about Coach Oglesby and why did we retain him, et cetera, it's blasphemy to me because, again, does he get credit for DeCambra moving into a position that he'd never played before? Does he get credit for bringing Ty Buchanan as a transfer? And does he get credit for moving Wooten in from tackle to guard and putting it together? These are the things that are frustrating me. We just rushed for over 200 yards as a team, and we got the Big 12 offensive line of the week. There are great things that are happening there, and this is the third time that fivesome has played together. And that's not even accurate, correct? Because this is the third game, and we had a different left guard and a different right tackle. So they are still working on their synergy and trying to figure out exactly how to work together. And that does take a little time. But I'm thrilled compared to last year with what we've seen with the offensive line. They're physical, they're big, and on the whole, they are really doing a great job.
All right, I got a couple more for you. Ismail Mahdi, you brought him up. I mean, what a game. And I was kind of surprised because we didn't see much of Quincy Craig. I don't know if he was hurt or what that was all about. We know that Risano was out. Do you have any insight as to why we didn't see Craig and just your thoughts on Mahdi?
Yeah. So going back to Ked, right? When you're a running back, you got to be healthy in your lower body. And if he's got a walking boot or an ankle injury, then you need to just hold him out and get him back to 100%. Quincy Craig, what a surprise he was in that first week. He's a great third down back. But when you put the tape on from Mahdi at Texas State, dare I say, it reminded me of Trung Candidate, correct? That
wow.
When he has a crease and his speed getting through that hole, he's a house call waiting to happen. Yeah. And so the challenge with him in the spring, it's a totally new, different system. Again, offensive line, learning how to come together, a new system under Coach Daggy. He was banged up in fall camp, but a healthy Ismail or Mahdi, that's scary. The speed that he runs with, it's exciting. But we know this, it does take a village, and each of the running backs has something that they bring. Even Yarborough getting in there early in that particular game didn't get a lot of action, but as a true freshman to be that 205 or 10-pound physical running back, we're going to need him too. So I love the explosiveness because it's hard to score, as we know. And if you have a guy that can pop one from the 10, to whatever yardage and has that speed to get past the first, second, and third level of the defense and take it to the house, it's a real backbreaker. It's awesome to see it.
And I'll just mention real quick that for those who don't know, Barrett played alongside Trung Candidate, so he knows of what he speaks. That is high praise.
I know that if I had a fifth gear, he had a 10th gear. If I had a third gear, he had a sixth gear. Whatever it was, like there was a difference in speed that's not seen often on the football field. And we really do see that level of speed with Mahdi, I think. And again, last year, Texas State, now he's up at a little bit better competition. And if you're still doing that when he's healthy, it's a good sign for the offense for sure.
He looks like an NFL kick returner to me. I mean, that guy looks like a guy that's going to play on Sundays. Maybe he's too small, but I wouldn't rule it out. All right, a couple more for you. Last week we had a Kansas State guest who said that no doubt, 100%, he would rather have Avery Johnson than Will Howard, knowing that Will Howard ended up winning a national championship with that supporting cast at Ohio State. Your thoughts on that opinion and what you saw of Avery Johnson last week against Arizona?
It's hard for me to say, truth be told, because obviously I'm biased, but when you look at our defense, I'm going to give the credit to Danny Gonzalez and what the defense is doing to every offense that we've faced. And I think he talked about this before the season. We talked about this. What picture do I want to give a quarterback pre-snap? And then what do we want to do post-snap? And those can't be the same. And the defense that he's running right now and the different looks that he's bringing in with packages, I just think that these quarterbacks are having a very difficult time. And we're making teams one-dimensional. And you go back to that Kansas State game, what are they going to do when we're playing that good at all three levels? I think if I go back to it, obviously we had one person that just missed a tackle on the first play of the third quarter, and we lost their fit, whatever your gap, whatever you want to call it, and they bust the big one. After we muffed the punt, we had 2 negative back-to-back tackles for loss to put them at 3rd and 17, and they ran like a deep in and got between the corner and the safety, converted it, scored 2 plays later. And then I think one time later in the game where they hit us on about a 35-yard go route. That's it. The first 2 games, nothing. So it's not like you see guys running open like, hey, wide open down here. We are making quarterbacks put the ball in tight windows right now under duress. And so I don't quite frankly think it matters what quarterback we've played so far. Rocco Becht from Iowa State is going to be a challenge. And so I'm sure that Coach G is dialing up some new looks to try to keep him off balance. But he's always said, we're going to +1 you in the run game. We're going to take away the run game. And when you've got the coverage guys that we have, we make it hard to throw the ball as well.
Last one from me. Iowa State next week after a bye week. Your initial thoughts on that game and how winnable is it for Arizona?
So we just pounded Kansas State from pillar to post for the most part, besides the scoreboard. But we were the faster team, physical team, better coach team. I'm going to say all of that. Well, they lost to Iowa State by 3 points. So if you take a look at commonalities there, I don't think that that's a problem for us. Iowa State, they're undefeated. Did they look fantastic against was it Appalachian State, Alabama State, Arkansas State? Arkansas State. Okay. Yeah. Again, I'm watching that game, and they've got a good quarterback. They've got a good coaching staff. They're going to be ready to play. But there's no reason that we are going to walk into that stadium with a white flag saying maybe we shouldn't play. I think that we're going to go in there and we're going to continue to surprise some people. And again, when we get a few more players back, Riley Wilson, he didn't play last week. If he is able to come back, difference maker. Trey Smith, he is he puts a lot of pressure on quarterbacks. So I think we're still a few pieces away. Again, Chris Hudson, I don't think that he's been healthy from Washington State, our transfer. When he gets healthy and can start really producing from the slot for our offense, we just have some really good things on the cusp here. My heart gets in the way of my head sometimes, but I don't think there's any reason that we can't beat Iowa State.
Shane?
Yeah, last question for you, Barrett. I want to touch on the wide receivers real quick. Like you mentioned, Chris Hudson. It seems like Arizona's got a lot of depth. Maybe not a star at that position at this moment. Watley's been the best receiver so far on paper. But it seems like there's a lot, like 7 or 8 guys who are kind of interchangeable at this point. Do you see maybe 2 or 3 who are going to eventually kind of rise to the top and end up being their sort of the Noah's go-to guys by the end of the season?
Well, I hope not, to answer the question in a weird way, because if Spivey makes a huge catch and gets drilled, holds on to the ball, does exactly what he's supposed to do, but he's got to go to the locker room, then Brandon Phelps has to be able to come in and do exactly the same thing, and he has done that.
Yeah.
When Hudson's hurt, then Nunu comes in and does exactly what he was supposed to do. Luke Wysong can come in and do the same thing, and Hunter can come in. So I don't want there to be 3. I want there to be 6. I want, some of the young guys to continue to. That's probably the only thing, is hopefully that the young guys don't necessarily have to play earlier than they're wanting to. But between those 5 or 6 top wide receivers, keep them fresh, keep their legs fresh, and when called upon, I don't want Noah to have a favorite, because it's harder to cover 4 than 1.
I think we can all agree on one thing here. Arizona at 3-0 looks a lot better than I think any of us would have anticipated 3 or 4 weeks ago. I mean, this defensively, I thought they would stink, and they've been one of the best defenses in college football. Will that last? Who knows? But you know what? The schedule, there's no Utah, there's no Texas Tech. As Rich Rod once said, why not Arizona? Just want to point that out. Barrett, always great to catch up with you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Bear down, guys. Appreciate you.
Discover more Play for All at Harrah's Auction Casino.
Hi, folks. Here are your drinks.
Where having fun means racking up reward credits with the Caesars Rewards loyalty program that can be redeemed for food, free play, hotel stays, and more. Not only here in the city of Maricopa, but also at more than 50 Caesars properties coast to coast. From Harrah's Las Vegas to Caesars Palace in Atlantic City. What are you waiting for? Play for all at Harris Auction Casino, the official sponsor of Play.
For the first time in, I can't remember how long, Shane's beating me in our picks competition. You have 13 points, I have 12 points. Remember, 1 point for a spread pick, 1 point for an upset special cover, 1 point if they win outright, and 2 points for Arizona's game, which I hit last week.
Well, now consider that. Consider that if I had actually had more faith in Arizona each week, I'd be crushing you in this competition because you got the 2 points.
It's what happens when I'm not digging as much into college football early in the week. No excuses.
But you know what? Though that works. That seems to work better for me when I do less research and just go with my gut. I tend to pick better. So
that's how we do it. Well, there's no Arizona game this week, but we're going to pick 8 of them real fast. Yeah. Give me an upset special, Shane. What do you have?
I got Rutgers, which is a 2.5-point home underdog. Last time I checked, against Iowa. Not too impressed with the Hawkeyes. Rutgers quarterback. I'm going to try to pronounce his last name. Kaliakmanis.
Yeah.
He's been great so far, 7 touchdowns, no picks. So I'm going to take Rutgers to win outright and improve to 4-0.
I am not going to take Rutgers outright, actually, like Iowa in that game. I'm going with Tulane, plus 11.5 at Ole Miss.
That was my pick last week, Tulane.
Yeah, you had them. That line shifted to where they were actually favored by the time the game went off. So it was a good pick when you got them. I think Tulane keeps it within a touchdown at Ole Miss and in a high-scoring game. So give me that 11.5 points. Would I be shocked to see the upset? No, because I think Tulane will be the group of 5 representative in the college football playoff. So
all right.
Let's start with a Big 12 special here, 9 a.m. Arizona time on Saturday. Texas Tech at Utah, the 2 teams that I have facing off in the Big 12 championship game. Utah is a 3.5-point home favorite. What do you like here, Shane?
Early start, too, out of Utah. I mean, it reminds me of the Fiesta Bowl back, the Arizona-Boise State Fiesta Bowl that started really early. I think this kind of game largely comes down to, for me, which coach I trust more, and I like Kyle Whittingham. Utah's at home. Texas Tech has been outstanding, but they haven't played outside of Lubbock yet. Rice-Eccles is a tough place to play, so I'm keeping it as simple as that. I'm going to take Utah to win and cover, even though I think it's going to be a very good game.
Very good game. I think Texas Tech is legit. I think Utah at home between 2020, I think it was 2021 to 2023, they were 18-1 at home. Yeah. Last year, obviously, was a dumpster fire for Utah, but that home field advantage is real. Texas Tech is really good. I think Utah is really good. I think Utah wins this game by 6, so I will give them the cover at 3.5 points. How about Auburn and Oklahoma, ranked versus ranked matchup? Oklahoma is giving 6.5 points as a home favorite. Do you like them to cover?
I like OU to win, but 6.5, that's a lot in this kind of game. I think they'll get there just barely. They held Michigan to 13 points. They've allowed 1 touchdown in 3 games, and again, they're at home. I'll take OU to win by at least a touchdown, but probably not much more than that.
I'm actually really impressed with what I've seen from Auburn thus far. I think this game's going to be close, and I'm going to hesitatingly, if that's even a word, I'm taking. I don't know if it is, but I'm taking
hesitantly.
Hesitantly, thank you.
There you go.
For an order, that's not very good on my part. But hey, you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. I think Auburn keeps this game within 6. I see it like a 24-20, 27-23 type game. So I'm going to take Auburn with the points there. Maybe even a little higher scoring than that. This is a tough game for me to pick. Probably the toughest one all week for me. Michigan minus 2.5 at Nebraska. Which team do you buy? Does Michigan start out 2-2, or is Nebraska kind of been fool's gold playing nobody thus far?
Yeah, it's tough. I picked Michigan to beat OU. Didn't happen. And Michigan just doesn't look especially good so far, even at home. It was against New Mexico. They just kind of looked pedestrian. Nebraska, like I said, they haven't faced any real competition, but they clobbered their last 2 opponents. And I made the theme for these picks this week for me is they're playing at home. So I'm going to go with that. I think Nebraska wins a close game at Lincoln and enough to cover the 2.5.
You know why I like Michigan this week? Because Sharon Moore's not coaching. They had this interim coach, Biff Poggi. Pretty good coach. Actually, he's a hedge fund guy. I guess he's like a multi-millionaire. And he's just coaching football for fun. And he's an assistant on the staff, former head coach at the lower level. I think it's like Charlotte or something like that. I did a good job last week. They ran it up on Central Michigan. I think they will win at Nebraska, but this is a tough one. I am not confident in this pick whatsoever. I gave out Rich Rod last week against Pittsburgh and West Virginia. They were down 10 in the fourth quarter, took it to overtime, and won the backyard brawl. Now they're getting 13.5 points at Kansas. I think it's a letdown week. I think Kansas rolls West Virginia this week. So give me that 13.5. What do you say, Shane?
Yeah, you gotta love how fired up Rich Rod was after that game too. I don't know if you saw that, but he was, happy, very happy for him. But yeah, I agree with you. You know, my initial reaction when you see a line like that was to take West Virginia with the points, but I think they're going to have a bit of a backyard brawl hangover. Kansas is coming off a bye after a tough loss at Missouri that they kind of gave away. I think they might put it on West Virginia pretty good in the second half. So I agree with you. I'm gonna take the Jayhawks to cover.
All right, let's talk Florida and Miami. So Florida's been a huge disappointment. I mean, a brutal schedule they have upcoming, and Miami is just rolling teams. I thought that South Florida would keep it closer. Miami looks to be the real deal, and they are giving Florida 7.5 points in a must-win game for the Gators. What do you say?
Yeah, I took Miami with the point. I think they were 16.5 point favorite over South Florida, and I took Miami with the points. I didn't feel great about it, but they made me feel good about it. Yeah, I think this is an easy call. Miami covers. I've seen enough to believe Miami at this point is possibly a national championship contender. Say it with me. They're at home. Florida might not get to a bowl game. I think Miami covers.
Miami does have one of the worst head coaches in the country in Mario Cristobal, even though he's a hell of a recruiter. They will cover, though. They'll win this game by double digits against the Florida team that's going in the wrong direction. This is a really interesting Big Ten game. Illinois at Indiana, and Indiana is -4. Now, Indiana has pretty much only played, two legitimate teams, as far as I'm concerned, in the last year. They played Ohio State and lost, got killed in the regular season, played Notre Dame in the college football playoff, got killed, and now they're playing an Illinois team who I think is really, really good, and who's already won a key road game at Duke. Yeah. I like Illinois not only to cover the 4, Shane, but I think they win the game outright. So I almost use this as my upset special. But give me Illinois outright in this game. What do you say?
Yeah, I think we're agreeing on most of these this week. Crazy as it sounds, I think this could be the game of the weekend, like the most entertaining, just like sit back and enjoy it against two teams you don't give a crap about kind of game. Really difficult one to handicap. I think Illinois is a bit better. Luke Altmaier is off to a fantastic start. They have a trio of great running backs as well. I think Illinois wins. Either Illinois wins or Indiana covers on a field goal and nothing more. But I'm going to take Illinois, and I have a hunch they're going to win outright.
Finally, we're not picking an Arizona game this week, which is kind of unfortunate, but we are picking Arizona State at Baylor. The Bears coming off that emotional win the other week over SMU. They are now 2-1. Arizona State is 2-1. Baylor rolled Samford last week, 42-7. ASU rolled Texas State. So Baylor, 2.5 point home favorite. I'm going to make the pick first. You know, Shane, I think ASU is not as good as everybody thinks they are. I think Baylor, I was disappointed in how they played against Auburn, but I'm not as sold on ASU as a lot of people are. I think Baylor wins this game by a touchdown. So give me the Bears to beat ASU and even the Sun Devils record at 2-2.
Yeah, well, look at it this way. This is the second straight Saturday coming up where we'll just be able to enjoy watching other fan bases suffer.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
So look it up. ASU did a pretty nice job of riding the ship against Texas State after losing to Mississippi State. I don't think that loss was a fluke per se, but ASU's looked more itself really since the second half of that game. I think Baylor at this point has 6-6 or 7-5 written all over him. I think Jordan Tyson is still one of the best receivers in the country. I think ASU wins a close game. I think they find a way to go on the road and win.
All right, so a disagreement there. Can Shane keep his lead on me? Let me also point out one thing that I did not mention earlier. While the crowd was smallish at Arizona Stadium, I'd say 25,000 last Friday, the halftime show was by far the best entertainment I have ever seen at Arizona Stadium. They had a drone show in color with the logos, the historical logos of Arizona above the stadium. It was phenomenal. I'd love to see it again and again, at least once a year. Good job by the athletic department. Fantastic. Shane, you would have loved it as a historian, somebody that has written, a book and knowing all those old logos. I thought they did a fantastic job. Seeing them in drone style. So loved it to see that. So good job, Arizona Athletics. Hey, it's been a heck of a show. A lot of great discussion today. Our buddy Barrett Baker, always appreciate him joining the show. As Shane said, Arizona has an off week this week. We can relax. We can enjoy our Saturday and then get right back at it at number 12 Iowa State on what is that date? The 20-something of 26th of September, something like that. There we go. Yeah, something like that. All right, so hey, enjoy it this week. It's going to be fun, and basketball season is only, 6 weeks away, something like that. Cannot wait. So for Shane Dale, I'm Eric Cohen. Thanks for listening, and as always, bear down.